Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Europe Climate Career Week, Climate Jobs for Regeneration, Nature Tech Success Stories, presented by Regen City as part of Europe Climate Career Week. My name is Ben. I'm a co-founder at Regen City. A little bit about Regen City for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We are an ecosystem builder for nature-positive regenerative cities. We're a spin-out of Regen Intel based in London, and we regularly host events, both in-person and virtual events that spotlight nature-based solutions and regenerative innovators. Our in-person events are typically interactive, kind of outdoor experiences. We recently hosted a tour with Sugi, visiting some of their pocket forests across London. This is our third and final session for Europe Climate Week, and you can actually view the two events that we ran earlier this week on our YouTube channel that we'll post in the chat. And we'll be posting future events on our Luma page soon, so do subscribe to stay updated and to hear first about these. Before we start, I do have a couple of housekeeping notes. So as you probably noticed, the session is being recorded. Our format today will begin with a kind of 40-minute or so panel discussion, followed by around 10 minutes for audience Q&A before we close. If you do have questions, please do use the Q&A box, and we invite you to upvote each other's questions as well. We also have our wonderful support team. So Kat from Regen City is kindly supporting today's event. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Angela. Over to you.
Thanks, Ben. So excited to moderate this panel today. We're going to hear stories from professionals who transitioned into nature tech, what they're doing today, how they got here, and some practical insights from their respective journeys. A recent report published by Nature for Climate underscores just how rapidly this emerging nature tech ecosystem is evolving. VC funding in nature tech startups increased by 51% from the second half of 23 to the first half of this year. Nature tech startups are projected to attract up to $2 billion in investment by the end of this year. For anyone interested in reading the report, we'll post the link in the chat. We also did a panel event yesterday, which offers a broad overview of the nature tech ecosystem from senior leaders at Nature for Climate, Dendra Systems, Zulu Ecosystems, and Regen Intel as a precursor to this event, which is available on YouTube if you missed it live. And now let's dive into the panel today. We have Peenaz Irani, Customer Partnership Specialist at Landbanking Group, who are helping business invest in natural capital and put nature on the balance sheet. We also have Ketch Davey, Head of HR at Nature Metrics, an Earthshot Prize finalist and global leader in nature data and intelligence, deploying cutting-edge technology like eDNA to measure biodiversity. And we also have Edmund Pragnell, nature finance lead at Credit Nature, a green fintech solution powering nature-positive investment and recovery. So to kick us off, we'd love to hear from each of you where you work today, your organization's mission, your journey into nature tech, as well as what initially inspired your shift. Peenaz, would you mind kicking us off?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction. It's a pleasure and honor to be amongst these panelists. So very, very, very honored to be here. My name is Peenaz. I always start there. It's always hard to say my name. So my name is Peenaz. I was born and raised on a farm in India. That's where my journey began. My family migrated to Canada, but now I live in Munich. So this is officially my third continent where I live and work very gratefully. I work for a financial technology startup. So we are approximately 55 people, which is why we're still a startup, founded in 2022 by two founders. And the company's name is called the Landbanking Group. And our mission, if you can see here, is to put nature on the balance sheet. And what that means in practical day-to-day is that the most important thing for us is to bring investments in nature, in preserving, conserving, and regeneration of nature. We can talk a little bit more about that as to what that means. What does natural capital mean? What does biodiversity credit mean? I mean, we're all learning, so we'd love to hear comments about that as well. Coming back to what inspired me in this journey. So, like I said, my journey began in India on a farm. My dad is a horticulturist, mom is an English teacher. I have a master's in economics and finance. So I did economics and finance. and then worked in the business strategy and business consulting world for a very, very long time. Until 2 years ago, when I realized I don't think the world needs another consultant. And what inspired me is I'm a yogi. I'm really into yoga and spiritual energy, and didn't think my energy was good when I was just a business consultant. So I'm very, very grateful that I was able to make the transition, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about the transition. So very happy to be here, and thank you for the chance to speak.
Thanks, Peenaz. Over to you, Ed.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Delighted to be here. Ed Pragnell. I'm the Nature Finance Lead at Credit Nature. Credit Nature are a nature fintech company founded in 2022. Our mission is simple. Similar to the Landbanking Group, our mission is to mobilize private capital investment into nature regeneration or nature restoration projects, with the goal of achieving two things. The first, to create resilient, regenerative rural economies. And the second is to help progressive, sustainably minded corporates evidence their nature positive commitments and activities. My story is fairly unusual. I graduated university with a degree in modern languages, but somehow I ended up doing an internship at a Japanese investment bank called Mizuho. Ended up spending 5 years there as a capital markets banker, so originating bonds for corporates and financial institutions, and selling those into the capital market. I moved to Santander and did a further 2 years there, but it was during my 2 years there that I sort of my realization that I wasn't really happy. Sort of my growth just as a human and understanding myself and my values in life just didn't align with where I was and who I was working with. So without actually having a plan at the time, I decided to resign, and spend a bit of time traveling, started reading books. And this was kind of my moment of realization. Started reading books around planet, anthropology, our connection with nature, climate, and just became increasingly concerned with some of these crises that we were meeting, and just really developed a sort of passion for it, and just decided that I needed to combine the sort of skill set that I'd learned in the banks with this new passion. And while I had a couple of years working with some friends in a craft brewing startup, I knew that my kind of final calling was going to come later. So I decided to pursue a master's at the Rotterdam School of Management in the Netherlands. They had a really cool sustainability course about how business can be the sort of force for positive change in the world, which really resonated with me. And during that course, did a consultancy project with Triolis Investment Management around natural capital. The sort of task they gave us was to design a forestry investment strategy, which opened up this world of natural capital, voluntary carbon markets to me, which I knew very, very little about, and just became absolutely just fascinated. Nothing else interested me after that. So after I graduated from Rotterdam in 2023, I just started speaking to whoever I could, reading around the topic, listening to podcasts, and just applying for jobs within these markets. And after quite a long 9-month period of looking, finally found Credit Nature 1 year ago today. Actually, today's my 1 year anniversary. And yeah, I've been, best job I'd say I've ever had. Really, really happy working there. I'm working with a really smart, passionate team. Very talented people. We're a small team of about 10 people, but from all backgrounds, be it ecologists, but geospatial analysts, and just it's a privilege to work with them every day and learn from them and sort of try to help solve this problem of how we're going to mobilize private investment into nature. But yeah, I look forward to talking a bit more about that for the rest of the day. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Ed. And over to you, Ketch.
Thank you, Angela. That was really nice to hear from Peenaz and Ed. So yeah, lovely to be here. I'm Ketch Davey. I'm the head of HR at Nature Metrics, and yes, we are indeed Earthshot Prize finalists this year. So I'm in green today. We've got the office set up, ready to go this afternoon to see how we get on, which is very, very exciting because the winner is actually announced later today. So looking forward to watching the ceremony. In terms of who we are as Nature Metrics. We are a global leader in delivering nature, data, and insight. So we use advanced technology. We generate biodiversity data at scale through environmental DNA, otherwise known as eDNA, Earth observation, and advanced data science and AI. But interestingly, our digital journey only really began around 2 years ago. So I've been with the business for 3 years or so, but we didn't have a digital team initially, and that grew significantly in the last 2 years. So we're in the nature industry, and we've transitioned over to nature tech. And interestingly, it's also my first role in nature tech, having come from the automotive and sports industry previously, working around the corner at McLaren. So very different field, very different industry. But I guess I was fortunate with timing around recruitment for myself, and had the opportunity to transition from a HR perspective into a new industry. And my role has effectively been initially to grow the business. So we tripled the headcount initially in around 18 months, and now we've leveled out somewhat. But my role as part of that has just been finding the experts, the likes of Ed and Peenaz on the call, and others, I'm sure. That's been my role. In terms of our mission is to make biodiversity measurable at scale to support global goals and drive investment into nature. So that's me and Nature Metrics, I think, Angela.
Thanks, Ketch. So now we're going to sort of go into sort of the transferable skills. So I know that for people who are starting to explore this space, especially mid-career professionals, the question that's often asked is, what skills from my previous role could I, can be valuable in working in this space? Could I start with Ed? Like, if you could start us off, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely happy to. I'd say, first of all businesses revolve around people. And therefore, if you have any sort of experience working in a company or a business, you'll have developed some soft skills around relationship management, dealing with different people. And then if you can combine that with the open-mindedness and willingness to learn, then I think you're already set up pretty well to transition into a new career. I'd say that there are plenty of other really transferable skills as well around sort of communication and problem solving. Certainly one of the biggest challenges, or one of my biggest challenges day to day, is around communication. My job involves pitching our product to corporates and financial institutions that would look to invest in some of our nature projects. And it's taking all of the sort of science and ecology that all of my colleagues specialize in and sort of translating it into something that's simple and understandable for people that want to invest. So yeah, from my point of view, I'd say, yeah, just if there are plenty of transferable soft skills around that can be implemented in any line of work.
Peenaz, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I loved everything that Ed said, and I couldn't agree more. So I'm trying to think of what else I can say to add to what Ed just said. But just a little bit of reflection on my journey, because I came from the business strategy world. I felt like a lot of the companies that I speak to, relating back to their business strategy and their business goals is always helpful. So that kind of pulling on business strategy has always been helpful. I lose a lot of project management skills on a day-to-day basis because I work with customers and account management. So project management has been one for sure. Listening is a really good one that I practice every day. And if anybody has any tips on that, I would love to hear more on how to listen better. And also, communication. I love what you said, Ed. But I think that one thing that struck with me a lot when I was transitioning is that in the climate solution space, every skill set is required, whether it's a communication skill set, a HR skill set, a project management skill set, technology, science. So I don't know, anything that you're currently doing is required in the climate solution space. And I think that has always stuck with me. And I try to bring that into my work every day. So yeah. And another thing that I really draw upon every day is that if you're just passionate about solving for the biggest problems of the world, and that is actually very useful because every day is really hard, and explaining to somebody what you do is also really hard. I mean, I talk to my mother and I say, I'm a tree hugger, and I just make peace with that. But yeah, if you're passionate about the space and wanting to solve for really big, meaty system problems, then this is definitely the place to be.
Thanks for sharing. And I guess like from a HR perspective, Ketch, do you have any insights or anything to add there?
Yeah, I'll do my best, Andrew. I think they were both two very good answers there. That I'm probably going to reiterate a lot of what was already shared. But certainly, I'm glad you asked from a HR perspective because it means I won't try and get into any of the technical aspects into some of the roles we recruit for. I'll leave that for the more specialised people in the room. But from my perspective, from a HR people and culture perspective, we focus heavily on softer transferable skills too. So like Peenaz has just shared, that every role in our industry and our business is still required. It's just a transition into that industry, one that we've made, one that I've made, and it's really important to have that passion for the environment, for the business you're working for, and that first for knowledge. I think that's one of the key messages that I want to get across today is that first for knowledge. It's such a new space, nature tech, and it's constantly evolving. We're constantly breaking new ground. I speak to the digital team all the time and the scientists here at Nature Metrics, and it's fascinating what is potentially around the corner. And that is because of the people that are in the business and what they're discovering, what they're learning, what they're developing. So I think first for knowledge, around nature is key. And we're looking for people that are excited to drive that innovation forward. Alongside that, and I think Ed or Peenaz mentioned this too, some kind of transferable skills we're looking for as well are really good project management skills and management and leadership skills as well. And that's particularly important, I think, in a startup environment where we're looking for candidates to really push the needle, I guess. Yeah, I think first for knowledge and project management alongside those management and leadership skills, Angela.
Great, thank you. And so we've spoken about transferable skills. What about the gaps? So what specific skills or knowledge areas have you found most important to upskill for nature tech, and what resources and advice would you recommend for professionals here today that are looking to build these capabilities? As well as like, how have you found the role of communities in helping you bridge that gap? Let's start with Peenaz.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Drawing a little bit on my journey, and Ed, you said something that related to me a lot when I came to this, I don't know, maybe one morning is epiphany, or maybe many mornings where I'm like, okay, I don't do what I'm doing currently. What can I then do? I read 13 books on climate. So I just let anything that came my way, I can send the list to, I just read anything that came my way, and any recommendations I had on climate. So that kind of started my journey. And then one of the advices I got was, hey, maybe if you're looking to transition into a climate solutions role, talk to people in the role that you think you want to do, which is when I came across Open Door Climate. And I spoke to many professionals across the globe who were doing the job that I thought I wanted to do. And if you write to them on LinkedIn, they are very forthcoming in terms of giving their time, 30 minutes. They talk to you about the role that they're doing. And then I kind of came to this conclusion that I wanted to be a sustainability consultant. And so I started looking into what were some of the, I guess, bespoke consulting, sustainability consulting courses that I could do, which is when I was based at that time in Canada. So Brooklyn based 1.5 degrees is a bespoke consulting company that also offers these courses, which is what I took. It was an intense, I think it was a 6 to 9 week program where you deep dive into the frameworks, reporting, compliance, etc., and then you learn more about that. Along with that, what I realized, and when I was talking to many people, is that at one point I was getting this global approach and global view when I was working or speaking to the people at 1.5 and also with Open Door Climate, and to think about a local community, which is when a lot of climate meetups came into my radar, and I attended a lot of these meetups. And through these meetups, actually, a lot of the conversations around what are some of the solutions that are implemented around the city that I live in, what I can see and feel were really good. And also talking to people on a day-to-day basis that were around my neighborhood and also in the city was really nice to understand how they're applying, their I guess skill sets in the day-to-day basis. So I guess that global perspective and that local perspective is really nice for me. Community is really helpful. I think most of the learning comes from even peer groups when you're in these collaborative cohort sessions, because you're doing activities and you're learning from each other. So I felt like that has been really helpful for me. Another one for me was work on climate Slack channel. So I kind of posted there that I just graduated from these courses and that I was looking for some kind of project work. And I was introduced a lot to many people in that Slack channel. So, and also community on, what goes on my LinkedIn, what goes on, your resume, etc. So yeah, hope that's helpful.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think we'll post some resources that are mentioned in the chat shortly so people can take a look at that. Ed, would you like to share your journey through addressing gaps in specific skills and knowledge?
Yeah, sure. Similar to Peenaz, not quite as deep or as many layers to peel back there. But yeah, I just kind of threw myself into talking to anyone that would talk to me. Yeah, leverage the community on LinkedIn. I think just don't be afraid or feel ashamed of cold messaging people. You've literally got nothing to lose. If you don't message them, they're not going to get in touch with you. So yeah, just leveraging that sort of LinkedIn network, read everything you can. There's what I would say, look, this is the sort of nature tech space, natural capital solution space. We're in the foothills now of this sector. Like, it is just starting within the last 5 years or so. There is a long way to go, and there's going to be a huge amount of capacity for people to move into this sector. So if you don't feel like you have the knowledge or the expertise, don't worry. A lot of people within the sector are still learning. And I continue to read as much as I can. I still listen to podcasts around nature. There's a really good one actually that the Green Finance Institute does called Financing Nature. I'd recommend that. It's on Spotify. So yeah, just to echo what Peenaz says, yeah, just kind of throw yourself into the reading, the listening, talking to people, finding people who have the job that you think you want and understanding what they do day to day. And that's just going to position you so much better for when you then have the opportunity to interview for a company, to be able to make the case for yourself. Yeah, that would be my advice.
I think that kind of segues quite nicely to Ketch. Like, where do you see sort of when overcoming sort of barriers and pitfalls, what challenges do you encounter? And from a HR perspective, what are some of the common pitfalls do you see candidates make? And is one of them, does doing an upskilling course kind of give you an additional leg up in an interview process? Yeah, I'd love to hear from your perspective.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, no, I think similar to what Ed said in terms of being in the foothills of this industry in the future. I think even in the 3 years or so I've been with Nature Metrics in this industry, the growth has been crazy in terms of even looking at our exposure and our applications and everything like that. The number of applications and people that we reach now compared to 3 years ago is seriously considerable, and I think that will continue to grow. I mean, I hope it will. It certainly supports myself and the business growth, but I think that's really key. So it's about how you can stand out in relation to your application process, and I don't mean like a loud CV or anything like that. I think the point Ed made around building connections was really, really important. The amount that you can learn for free on LinkedIn from just connections in the space. And particularly, as we've mentioned, everything is so new and everything is being developed. And I think that is massively key, is to build those relationships and those connections. I think the roles that we advertise, that the business is looking for, and other businesses are looking for, some of them are brand new. Some of them don't exist previously. So it's about finding those transferable skills into those roles. And as I mentioned, I was in the automotive industry before I joined here. For me, as part of my moving into nature tech, it was about how I could use my HR expertise, my people and culture expertise into the role here. The nature tech was all to be learned. I had an interest, but it was all to be learned. And as I probably said, my mind is blown every day with working with the scientists and what the future may hold. And from my side, it's about knowing enough to be able to support the team and the business, but never being that expert. I'm never going to be that expert that we have in the business. It's about supporting and knowing what needs to. So I'd say building relationships, building your network, learning from your network, and when you're going through an application process or an interview process or anything like that, link back, find the similarities of the roles that you've done or the exposure you've had previously to what that role is looking for. I think that's really a difference maker, alongside showing that passion and that drive and that will for wanting to be in this business. There are lots of people that want to be in this industry, and we're looking for people that want to be in this industry because we want to drive everything forward. So I think they're the key takeaway points, I'd say, Angela.
And just to double click on that, like what common pitfalls do you see candidates make, I guess, like in application processes that you're able to share that, you know?
It's a good question. I think one of the things, like I say, is not necessarily being specific with your application in terms of why you want to work for X business. And what you can bring to X business. I think it's important to not be generic with applications, and it's important to link your CV and your previous experience with the role you're actually applying for. So make it as relevant as you possibly can.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. And just on the theme of overcoming barriers and pitfalls, I guess, Peenaz, do you have anything that you're able to share about challenges that you've encountered and how you overcame them? Anything specific that you're able to share with the audience today?
So many. Oh my God. It took me a year. Took me a year to get here. But some things that really come to mind is the emotional part of just getting up and, sending applications and not knowing when your number will come. So it's just, that bit was overwhelming, to say the least, but community drives you forward. I mean, for example, even when I did the Regen Intel course, just having you, Ben, Kat there was amazing. Just community drives you forward and helps you go through that journey. So that emotional part was a lot. The other two that come to mind more practically was because like I said, I had a business strategy background. And when I looked at my LinkedIn and I was applying for roles, I was wondering what my LinkedIn should talk about. Should it talk about my past experience, or should it talk about where I want to go? So even if my future experiences of where I want to be are not that meaningful from my past experience, what should I include? So that was like one thing that I was thinking a lot about, like what should my LinkedIn say? And then many of the interviews that I was going to would talk about, they would talk about not having enough experience, but that's why I was applying for the role, because I wanted that experience. So then how do you actually transition into a role that needs an experience? So that's why I mentioned work on climate, because what happened there was when I wrote on work on climate, there were a few kind of projects that came to me pro bono. I think Ed, you referred to a project as well. And when I started doing a project, it was actually a project where somebody got funding to work on recycling waste material from rivers in Cambodia. And I was doing the reporting for that company pro bono. It kind of helped me draw on that experience in interviews. So when they would ask me, talk about a project that you're currently working on, I would talk about that specific project that I was doing pro bono with this, the person who got funding. So yeah, these are the two things that really helped me kind of get over that line and the pitfalls that I experienced.
Thanks for sharing that, Peenaz. And how about you, Ed? Do you have any sort of
Yeah,
stories
it
to
was
share?
not a year for me. It took me 9 months from knowing what I wanted to do to finding a job that would employ me. And I applied for a lot of jobs and faced a lot of rejection, and it was common feedback throughout. Was that I didn't have the relevant professional experience, and at times that's hard to take. But I think as Peenaz says, you've got to sort of just keep going back to the well, keep believing and trying. And if you're passionate enough about this and you're really passionate about the problem that you're trying to solve, that will eventually come through, and the opportunity will present itself to you. So yeah, I would say, just be patient, be resilient as you can be, and just if you really want to do this, just keep going. You'll find your opportunity.
Did you just on that? Did you know what role you wanted to go for at the beginning, or was that part of the exploration?
I didn't have a crystal clear vision of what the role was. I knew that I wanted to help sort of design markets that could leverage scale and investment into nature-based solutions. So be that through voluntary carbon markets, or be it through what we're now developing at Credit Nature, which are voluntary nature credit markets. But I knew I had, from my days working in banking, some of the skills that were going to be required to help do this. I had 7 years experience of covering clients, the same clients that we're now looking to, those same corporates and banks and financial institutions who we're now looking to invest their money to regenerate nature. I know how they work, I know how they talk, I know how to communicate with them. And that was really where I leveraged my position into Credit Nature. Really, they were looking for my job description. The first line of my job description was build and develop relationships with corporates and financial institutions who want to invest in nature. I was like, well, I've done that for slightly different products, solving a different problem, but I've done that and I know how to do that. So yeah, even though to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting to end up marketing biodiversity or nature credits. I was thinking more on the carbon side when I first started looking for roles, but really happy to have found this kind of even newer market space and trying to solve that challenge.
Great, thanks so much for sharing your stories, Peenaz and Ed. So now I think we'll move on to sort of ecosystem predictions, like how do we see the sort of future of nature tech evolving, and what are some of the new opportunities that might emerge? Peenaz, do you want to kick us off with that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you hear more and more biodiversity credit in languages and all the COPs that recently also happened. I would say one thing is the understanding of what that actually means. What is a natural capital account? What do we mean by when we say biodiversity? Because it's so broad and large, and honestly, just trying to even understand nature is naive, I would say, but we're trying, and that's the main goal. So I think the first part is the understanding. I really liked, Ed, what you said around the communication of it. Is like, understanding how do you communicate to somebody who has not read 16 books or who does not care about this as much as you do and has 30 minutes to listen to you, and you have to communicate that message in 30 minutes for them to care enough to take it back to their bosses and actually fight for this budget, which is hard. So I would say that maybe just the understanding of it and the communication would improve. Also, the fact that there are 3 of us on this call trying to do the same thing is brilliant, and that I don't think was valid in 2022, right? Like this is fairly new and this is happening, and the fact that we are all working in this space is good. I would say that a lot of collaboration is in the nature tech space is happening, and across the climate solution space actually happens, which is everybody wants to come together to solve for this, and nobody wants to go at it in silos, because nature doesn't work like that. It works in synergy, and we learn that more and more. So a lot of coming together and sharing of resources and learnings is what I see in the world. And also from a people perspective, I think you touched upon this, Ketch, and Ed as well, which is maybe right now there is like this keen focus on, okay, we need sales, we need tech, we need the infrastructure to build, but more and more as companies grow, and I think our companies are a good example, we will need all kinds of skill sets coming in, which means more jobs for everybody in that space. So it's good news, and it's learning. That's how I would summarize it.
Great, thanks, Peenaz. How about you, Ed? What are you seeing in the sort of the ecosystem at the moment, and where do you see new opportunities emerge?
Just to echo Peenaz, I think there's going to be loads of opportunities across the board. I think the skill sets we need are the same skill sets that any other business or sector needs. We need people with legal expertise, we need finance expertise, we need people who can project manage, we need operational experts, we need HR, we need all of these things. So there's going to be opportunities across the board. I also think that the problem we're trying to solve today has never been solved. So to say that people are experts at it, I think, or that for us to say we know how to do it, we don't know how to do it yet, I haven't done it. So don't feel, because you don't know how to do it, don't feel like you can't help be part of the solution. I think there's going to be huge growth in this space, and we're going to need lots of people. In terms of where I see most opportunities developing, I think we're still, as I said, at the early stages of this market, where we still need sort of harmonization of standards for how these markets evolve. But then I think for nature, it's really going to come down to high quality, transparent data and people who can interpret that data to inform decision making at the highest level. So yeah, I probably would see most opportunities probably coming on the sort of data tech side. So people who have experience or knowledge on that side of the business. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities there.
Great. So lots of growth and lots of sort of evolving, moving pieces.
But we're also going to need the relationship management people. Yeah, so if more and more companies start investing in this, we're going to need people to manage those accounts. We're going to need salespeople. We're going to need sort of internal operations. We're going to need everything from an end-to-end business needs to do that.
Ketch, do you have anything else to add from a sort of recruitment HR perspective from what you're seeing?
I think it's probably similar to what Peenaz have shared, but I think firstly, what a fantastic space to be in. Like we've said, I mean, if I think of the space I came into 3 years ago to where it is now, and then what the future may hold, I feel very fortunate to be in the space in itself. And I think, as we've seen with business operations, they will grow as the business grows, because you need the likes of HR, finance, etc., to help support the business from a running perspective. But in terms of kind of direct growth and what we perceive, it's there has been, and I think there still will be, a need for a lot of growth in the digital space. So one of the things we're looking into a lot is kind of the likes of the machine learning, the AI, the data science. I think that those expertise in the future will continue to be needed. And then also the commercial growth. So there's going to be lots of commercial opportunities as the investment comes into the industry. We're going to need people that can work with clients and with larger businesses to ensure that we're able to continue to develop the business. But it's important that the people in the commercial roles in the industry are also have that foundational knowledge on the topic. So I think that's one of the points to make really is we're looking for those commercial roles, and that's one of the spaces we're looking to develop at the moment. Our careers site is full of commercial roles at the moment, but it's still having the people with the knowledge initially to be able to build those relationships. So yeah, I think it's a great space to be in at the minute.
Great, thanks for sharing. So now I think we're going to move on to the final question on practical advice. So what advice would you give to your former self or someone looking to leverage their skills for a nature positive career? Let's start with Peenaz.
I wrote down that the fact that you're here is already brave. So continue to be brave. I would tell myself, my past self, that, and I also continue to tell myself this every day. Continue to be brave. It's okay to not know the answers. And the other one that I think I've realized is this is still just a job. I mean, yes, I'm passionate about the space, and getting up every day and having the privilege of solving one of the biggest problems in the world is great, but it is a job. So thinking about it, also kind of helping yourself mentally and physically on that is important, because you can get dragged down pretty quickly. Yeah, those would be the two that I would like to share.
And Ed, over to you.
I think that's great advice. Yeah, bravery. Yeah, I think as Peenaz says, the fact that you're here today is a really strong indication of your willingness and passion to want to do something different with your career and to make an impact. So yeah, just keep pursuing it. There are going to be some hurdles. There are going to be some days where it feels tough, and you'll question whether or not you want to do it. But yeah, as Peenaz says, keep being brave, keep going, and I'm sure if you have the if you can present the right attitude and a willingness to learn and a sort of a real passion for these topics and these problems we're trying to solve, then you will eventually find the right opportunity for you to enter this space. I'm no doubt on that.
And Ketch?
Yeah, I think the points just made around kind of not being afraid to jump in at the deep end are key. Definitely. Don't be afraid to jump in the deep end, but also stay curious. I think staying curious is essential in this field. Be open to learning and trying new things. The great news, obviously, is that if you're looking for a career of impact, nature tech's an incredible space to be in. So I think that's something that I've found since I've joined, and I think speaking to colleagues as well, I think that it's easy to find that motivation in the work you do because of the passion that's ingrained in you from that perspective. And I guess one of the things I actually learned quickly moving into this industry is actually how much the people in this field live their values daily. So not just at work, think about kind of the impact you're having outside of work too, and what that level of commitment might be. It wasn't quite a shock, but it was certainly a surprise to me in relation to just how passionate the team were, and it's certainly something that we look for. So yeah, be prepared to practice what you preach. And then I did ask this question to some of the team before I joined the call here, from a digital perspective, and the key message that I shared as well prior on the call was using AI to your advantage. So engaging with it, learning where it adds value, understanding its limitations, not relying on it entirely, but use that tool to enhance your work and increase your impact and efficiency in the work you do. Obviously, the more efficient you are, the more you can achieve. So I think that's a bit of practical advice. But yeah, stay curious and don't be afraid to jump in at the deep end.
Great. Well, that basically wraps up. Thank you so much, our sort of panel discussion for today. We're going to move on to Q&A. So if anyone's got any questions, please add it to the Q&A box. I think there's been quite a few come in. And if you can, please do upvote as well. So let's start with first question. How do you distinguish between climate tech and nature tech? Who would like to take that question?
I think we're getting semantics here. I'd say the distinguishment I've made between climate and tech. So climate is effectively around our carbon emissions and the aim to decarbonize our industries, businesses, planet, what have you. So yeah, the climate has been around the reduction and removal of carbon from the atmosphere through different technology solutions, whether they be nature-based or whatever. Over the last 3 to 4 years, there's been increasing, I'd say, concern and recognition that we are heavily reliant on nature, and our natural assets are becoming heavily depleted. And so now we're looking for solutions to protect the nature that we have and then look to restore it in the areas where it's become heavily degraded. The final thing I would say on that is that the two are inextricably linked, climate and nature. So nature provides a lot of the sort of carbon solutions that we need in terms of carbon storage, carbon removals, but it also provides other services such as the sort of mitigation and adaptation as climate change begins. So a healthy natural assets can withstand climate change much better than degraded assets. So yeah, we need nature to be able to solve the climate crisis, is what I would say.
Great, thanks for that. And then we've got our next question. Many feel there are issues around ageism in traditional tech and startups, as in many other sectors. Does nature or climate tech feel more open to older, experienced people transitioning in with skills? I wonder,
Do you want me to go from that?
Edge, if
From a
you
HR
have any.
perspective, Angela?
Yeah.
I'm pleased Ed answered that last one. I definitely wouldn't have been able to top that answer, Ed. Spot on. So I think I'd like to think not, Angela. In my experience, I think ultimately businesses at this moment in time are looking for the best people to do the job. And I think there are certain things that companies can do, not just in nature tech, but in all businesses to remove any obstacles that anyone feels that are there. And we certainly do our best to do that here at Nature Metrics. I'm sure other businesses do. But the nature tech industry are looking for expertise in lots of different fields. Some sectors are newer than others, but that shouldn't correlate necessarily with any discrimination on any side, really.
Can I just come in there quickly? The one thing I would say that if you are an experienced professional that through your career has worked their way up to quite a strong salary, if you're then looking to transition into a smaller startup company, it's difficult to command that type of salary. Certainly I have, just speaking from personal experience, have taken quite a large pay cut to move from the banking industry to be here. I'm fortunate that I don't have a lifestyle that demands a large salary, but I would say that is a consideration that you might need to make when applying for certain jobs. Maybe not all, but some.
And to build on that, actually, and you made a really good point. When I was transitioning from business strategy to the current role, my title during the business strategy was VP. So I was vice president at the company, and I was vice president for, I think, the managing director and vice president for 6 years before I was transitioning. So a lot of the feedback that I got when I was transitioning was, well, you're too senior. And basically what they were saying is we can't afford you. So I think it's a really good point that Ed you made, which is like clarifying that you're here because you're curious and you're passionate and you're wanting to learn and you're wanting to, do your best, and you don't really need, I don't know, X salary to sustain. Not to say that climate jobs are not paying well, they are decent salaries. I mean, I survive in Munich with a decent salary. So yeah, I think it's a good clarification.
Great, thanks for your responses on that one. Our next question is, how did you know where to niche into as nature, NBS, biodiversity tech, and its broader ecosystem are so dynamic and a wide, broad field? Focusing on the finance or local development projects, how do you sort of narrow down your search, I suppose, is the question. Who'd like to respond to that one?
I can talk about because this was, I think, something, Angela, you asked. This was a really good question, which is, how do you even know, did you know what job you wanted to do when you wanted to transition? And I guess for me, at least for my journey, I had this perception that I wanted to do X kind of job based on the skill sets that I had. But speaking to professionals who were doing the job through Open Door Climate actually opened my eyes and narrowed down my search. And then I did the course in the sustainability consulting world, and I realized that it was all about numbers and I didn't want to do it. So I kind of pivoted then to have, okay, and at that time I was living in Canada and I was, talking through people in the meetup space to see what kind of projects they were working on. And I realized pretty quickly that I didn't actually want to be in North America, just the fact that, anyway, lots of details, but I wanted to be in Europe. So that's how I kind of narrowed down my search with geography and also who I am and what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be in the nature solution space. So I was targeting in Europe, the nature solution space. And I was writing to startups about my profile and the work that I wanted to do, kind of like what Ketch you mentioned from the work that I had already done. That was the journey to getting to this role here at the Landbanking Group. And specifically the nitty-gritties of nature, to be honest, it we, at least at the Landbanking Group, nature is all giving. So there is no differentiation in nature. If it's agriculture land or in the land that needs regeneration or rehabilitation in the built environment space or conservation in many parts of the world, everything is important. Or wetlands or peatlands, or I can go on and on, but everything is important. So that's why we use the term nature, is because everything is deserts. They all have biodiversity and ecosystems that we all need to survive. So yeah, that would be my answer to that question.
Great, thanks. And Ed, did you have anything to add to that? Because I know that you had a sort of finance kind of background. Was it quite a sort of and you mentioned carbon sort of markets initially.
Yeah, well, I kind of, in some respects, I got very lucky that I found the job I found, and I kind of fell into it just through, I found Credit Nature through through an industry sort of presentation. Credit Nature had just sort of spun out or just started as a company 6 months earlier, and just went on the website and saw that they were hiring for a nature finance person, so applied, and then a couple of months later, yeah, started the role. So in some respects, quite lucky. But I would, I knew that I wanted something in nature-based solutions. I knew that whether it was forestry, biodiversity, or sort of nature restoration, it all interested me, and I thought it was all really important. So yeah, my advice would be to read around and understand each of these topics as well as you can, and find something that you feel most passionate about, or the problem that gets you going the most. It might be that it all concerns you, in which case you can pursue it in all areas. But yeah, just find the problem that you want to solve the most is what I would say.
Great. I think we have enough time for just one more question, or maybe two. So, given the number of projected opportunities and growth in this sector, is it fair to assume that all your organizations are hiring at the moment?
Yeah, we're about to be. We've just secured some investment. So probably in 2025, we'll be hiring for a couple of roles, I would thought.
We're certainly hiring at Nature Metrics currently, not to the same extent we were 18 months ago, where we grew so significantly. But I think we will add a number of roles in 2025. We're currently hiring in the sales space, alongside the kind of data, digital AI space alongside that. And yeah, there will certainly be a few more roles in 2025, I suspect. Yeah, I was just about to jump back into the other question, but I think with timing, I will leave it at that, Angela.
Yeah, if you had any last few words for that last question, feel free to.
I was just gonna reiterate what Ed said. Really, is it's difficult to answer kind of where the specialities are and where you want to be. I think that's a really individual. You need to think of that individually, about where you want to be, and then go from there. There's lots of transferable skills between the different points that were mentioned, and I think as we grew, we were hiring lots of people, lots of different expertise, and finding out kind of where they were best suited and where they sat, and then the business grew. Whereas now we're at a point of the business where now we're looking for those specialists, and we're looking for those people that have developed in that area to move into as specialists. So I think it is find that passion, and speak to experts. Understand what their roles may be. Understand what the day-to-day is. Whether you're going to enjoy that, whether actually you're going to hate 90% of the role, then that's not for you. But there's so many different opportunities in this space that there'll definitely be more than one that you'll be able to find.
Great, thank you. I think that's it for questions. So just to wrap up quickly, I just wanted to thank you everyone for joining us today, and special thanks to our wonderful panelists, Ketch, Peenaz, and Ed, for generously sharing their stories, insights, and practical advice. As we've seen today, each of them has a unique story to share about their journey into the space, highlighting multiple potential pathways into nature tech, as well as the amount of resources and the communities that are available out there. We'll be posting some of that information in the chat. And I'm just going to hand over to Ben to close the session.
Just wanted to reiterate, thank you so much to our incredible panelists today, Peenaz, Ed, Ketch. We really, really are grateful for your time and the insights you've shared with us. Also just wanted to wish Ketch and all of his colleagues all the best for the Earthshot ceremony later today. We'll certainly be rooting for you guys. And thank you so much to all of you in our audience who have joined and kind of participated today and shared such, insightful questions. We'll be sending a post-event email with links to some of the resources that we've shared during today's event. So look out for that. We'll also have a recording to the session in case you wanted to kind of replay. And obviously Climate Career Week isn't over. So there are many, many more events happening today, tomorrow, all the way through to the end of Friday. So do check them out. There's a large meetup happening for those of you that are based in London. So please take a moment before you go to perhaps give us some feedback. We really want to, improve our events. So we're really grateful for any feedback you can offer that we can use to, support the wider community. So yeah, feel free to use the QR code. We'll stay on the line for a few moments to give people the time to do this. But with that, just want to say thank you so much again, and we hope to see you at one of our events soon. Thank you.